Hi, everybody. My name is Justin Gibbons, and my action research study was on the effect that AI-generated materials have on students' knowledge retention. So the problem that I wanted to look at in this study was just to address the widespread implementation of artificial intelligence, AI, in the field of education. And I wanted to, try to determine whether this use would have a positive impact on student learning. So the rationale for the study, why did I do this study? Particularly because as a teacher, I am constantly getting professional development and just being told that AI is the future and it's just going to help us as educators tremendously. And usually it's in terms of facilitating instruction, helping with planning, helping grade things. It's always centered around the teacher. And there's not really much mentioned about how it's going to impact our students. So I was really curious how, if I do choose to use this AI, how would it impact my student learning? Would it have any positive effects on them? How would it impact them? So that's why I kind of wanted to do this study. Also, as a teacher in an inclusion classroom, I have a decent amount of students with IEPs. So I wanted to see, if the use of AI would help me address some of the issues I constantly have to encounter in inclusion classes, such as keeping the students engaged, having the students recall concepts, retain knowledge, things like that. So overall, this study just hoped to inform teaching practices by illustrating the effect that AI generated materials have on student knowledge retention and engagement. So, what were the research questions that guided my project? So, the primary research question was how will the implementation of AI generated, personalized, and differentiated review materials in a 10th grade biology class for 4 weeks impact student knowledge retention? And to help focus our study, there are three sub questions of things I wanted to particularly focus on. Three questions I wanted to especially answer. First, how does the use of AI generated review materials affect student engagement during biology lessons? Second, to what extent do AI personalized review materials improve students' ability to recall key biology concepts? And third, what is the impact of AI generated review materials on students' confidence in biology topics? So, before we dove into the action research, we actually performed a literature review just to see what was out there already, like what work is being done in the field of AI and education. So there were four main findings that our research suggested. First, that AI positively impacts student learning outcomes, leading to a deeper understanding of the subject matter and better knowledge retention. Second, in terms of the students' point of view, students actually appreciate the personalization aspect of AI generated materials and find them more enjoyable since AI, teachers can use AI to make lessons harder or more difficult for students or easier. They can even make it more personalized, cater to students' hobbies or interests. Third, AI technology allows teachers to align generated content to state standards while also adapting the difficulty to the needs of the students. And fourth, teachers, although they're being exposed to AI, they need more training to fully understand how to use all the different kinds of AI and what that AI is actually capable of and how it can help them and their students in the classroom and during their lessons. All right, so let's dive into the actual project here, into the methodology. So this was a project in which we used AI generated review materials to see how it impacted students. So we used a 10th grade biology class over a 4 week period. So during weeks 1 and 3, the students were just exposed to teacher generated review materials like there usually are, just normal classroom procedures. And weeks 2 and 4, they used AI generated review materials before taking any assessments. So it's kind of like an on-off schedule in terms of using AI. Um, AI programs were offered by the school district or also any other free ones online that were used. And me, the researcher, also played the role of the instructor. So we used my inclusion class for this study. And in order to better triangulate our data, we had a few data collection tools. So in order to study student confidence, knowledge retention, and engagement, knowledge retention was measured using daily exit tickets and weekly quizzes. Student engagement was measured using daily teacher notes and also weekly classroom observations by a school professional. And lastly, student confidence was measured through weekly student interviews, where a student was pulled to the side and interviewed about their confidence and their knowledge of a topic. And also, students took weekly confidence surveys about how confident they were in the subject or in the concepts they were learning that week. So, the population of this study was a 10th grade biology class, inclusion class at Massapequa High School. So in 10th grade, all the students were 14, 15, 16 years old. The class contained 13 males and 5 females. Of those 18 students, 8 had IEPs, individualized education plans, and 2 had 504 documentation. All right, so we went through with the study, the 4-week study, on-off schedule of AI implementation in the classroom of review materials, and we had 3 general findings. So first, we found that the classroom observations that were done indicated an increase in student participation when asked a question during the weeks when AI materials were used. So when AI was used, more students participated in answering questions. The weeks when AI review materials were used saw an average of 2 students per question, while the other weeks never had an average above 1.8 students per question. On the other hand, the teacher notes that were taken during lessons by myself suggested that bathroom use and refocusing of students didn't really have any significant changes throughout the study. So in terms of engagement, students answered more questions, but they weren't really more or less likely to go to the bathroom or to need refocusing when AI was used, but they were more likely to answer questions. In terms of recall of biology concepts, we saw an improvement when AI materials were used. Exit tickets and student interviews both illustrated a heightened ability to recall biology concepts learned in class when students used AI review materials. And then third, students experienced an increase in self-confidence in biology concepts during the weeks when AI-generated review materials were being used. And you can see this to the pie graph on the right. During week 2, when the students took their self-confidence survey, about 55% of the students rated themselves as either very confident or somewhat confident in the topics that they were currently learning about. This was the highest of the entire study, which is of when AI-generated review materials were being used. Overall, student knowledge retention improved during weeks 2 and 4 of the study when AI-generated review materials were being used, which can be seen to the bar graph on the right. You can see weeks 2 and week 4 having heightened scores for the weekly assessments when we were testing students' knowledge retention for what they learned during the week. All right. So during this study, we did encounter some limitations. So during this action research study, the following limitations were encountered. AI programs were only limited to the ones that either Massapequa School District offered already, they paid for, or any free ones that were available on the internet. The study only consisted of 1 class. So unfortunately, we were only able to limit this 1 class during the study of 18 students. The class was not particularly diverse. Yes, they did have like IEPs, 504s, or just general education students, but it was majority a white class, middle class income, so it wasn't really particularly diverse in those aspects. Also, linguistically speaking, the length of instruction was only like a 41-minute period, 5 times a week, and the study was only for 4 weeks. So if we potentially used AI more often, or if we had a longer study, we may have gotten more accurate results or different results in those aspects. And only 1 teacher was utilized in this studies as myself. If we use different teachers with different teaching styles, we may have gotten different results, either better or worse, because AI implementation, is determined by who is teaching and who is using it, which was myself. Other teachers may have used it in other aspects. So, what were the implications of this study? This study was important because it showed that AI-generated materials can be used to improve knowledge retention in a struggling classroom with students that are struggling to recall concepts. Student confidence can also be improved when AI-generated review materials are used. So if you have students that are lacking confidence, potentially using AI could help with that. AI should be considered for use in classrooms. I know AI is being urged by a lot of professionals to be used in classrooms, and I know some teachers are hesitant to use it, but I hope this study can at least put out there that there are positive aspects to it, and teachers should consider using it. AI should be further researched, in other groups of students, in other settings, in other teaching styles, in other subjects, just to see if the results differ. And also in terms of myself, this project had implications on my teaching style as I learned that action research can have profound effects on a teacher, but you can learn how to improve your construction, how to manage your classroom. Basically, you can just take a problem and do your own research, do your own experiment, and try to find results to try to help you and also help your students.